Hello, everyone. How are you doing? Be sure to say hi if you are watching from Facebook or YouTube. And yes, we are streaming live on both platforms tonight. For those of you who don't know me, I am Tanya Lee of Harmonia. Each month, I go ahead and I pick a selective person who I want to bring on to introduce to my subscribers who, enlightens us with information or, tools that we can use for self-development and empowerment or just interesting topics. And tonight, I'm really excited to bring one of my lovely friends and soul sisters who I work closely with. And for those of you who followed me before Harmonia Tarot, I was also on the show called The Breakdown, the podcast that I did with Johanna. So I am excited that Johanna and I have not been live for each other since the last season that we had with the Breakdown. But I'm excited to have her on board tonight. We are talking tonight. The topic is on how to become a better version of you. And she's extremely passionate about this. Johanna's mission is to lead and to help others through learning to trust and love oneself. She guides you through from where you are to where you want to be, alchemizing anything in between. Johanna is a multi-dimensional channel, medium, trauma-informed coach, author, quantum energy facilitator, certified DNA activation and restructurer, and creator of the quantum accelerated alchemy method and the soul purification method. She has been seen in many magazines, podcasts, radio shows, and tele-summits. Listen, guys, I said to Johanna, she gave me a mouthful to freaking say, and I was not going to mess it up. And I still messed it up by saying shows instead of saying shells instead of shows. But yet, here we are. We're bringing her on. Hold on. For some reason, it's not. Are you muted on your?
You unmuted me and I unmuted myself all at the same time.
And then you unmuted it. We just kept muting each other.
Yeah, pretty much.
I was so close and I messed up shows with shells. God damn it. But it's okay. I'm working on being a better version of myself tonight.
It's okay. It's all the titles the ego gives us anyway. So it means really nothing at the end of the day, but it's fun, right? My ego likes it.
Yeah, absolutely. So guys, if you are on, make sure you say hello. Don't forget to hit like. If you're new on here, we'd love to see you subscribe. We appreciate it. Johanna, I'm excited for having you because it's been so long since we've been on the Breakdown. The Breakdown was also another version, I feel, of us becoming the better versions of ourselves too, because we were evolving and doing different things and manifesting. But when I had asked you, hey, I want to have you on board. I want to show people your lights, what you're about. And I said, pick a topic. And you had picked this topic. And I went, oh, this is perfect. This is perfect for especially what's going on right now, especially for the readings that I've been doing for people, not just on relationships, but on career and things that are stopping people or limiting them. And so I wanted to give you that time frame to really just be able to have the floor and talk about it.
Okay. We're just going to jump right in.
We're going to jump right on in. So seriously, I really want you to let us know why you picked this topic for tonight, because you obviously had a reason for picking it.
Well, it's synchronistic because a couple of weeks ago, probably about 3-4 weeks ago, actually, I had the name Becoming listed. Whenever I get messages from Spirit, I've learned that it's not always the time when they give it to me. It's something that needs to gestate in me. So I had written it down. It was I was like, maybe this will be a course, maybe this will be something. And I just left it there. And then about 3-4 weeks ago, I really started feeling called to create this experiment, this 30-day challenge and free live mini course. And I was like, oh my God, this is becoming. This is an opportunity for people to learn how to be their best selves, because I have been on social media, right? TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, and everything I talk about is about being the change. If you want to see something in the world that's different, like if you want to see the world look differently, if you want our government to be different, if you want your spouse to be different, if you want your friends to treat you different, if you want your parents or your kids to treat you different, you go first. You lead the way. You have to be the change. And I've been talking, and the feedback that I kept getting was, well, how do you do that? What does that even mean? Like, I don't understand. And I thought, oh my gosh, So let me run this experiment of how to step into becoming your best self. And then a couple of days ago, actually, it was yesterday, I did the March energy update where I talked about what we're going to be experiencing for March. And it was all about becoming, go figure. It was all about like most people know March is a transition month, but
right.
Most people think, we're getting close to Easter, close to resurrection and that transformation. And that is coming. There is a huge 2-week rebirthing period that we're going to go through at the end of March and into April. So the first 3 weeks of March is really about preparing you to shed all the layers of who you thought you were meant to be or who you thought you were supposed to be, who you are no longer, and allowing yourself to discover who you truly are and really focus on who you want to be. So it just kind of lined up perfectly, as it always does. And, it was beautiful. So I thought, well, if I'm going to be talking to you, I might as well carry on the same theme because it's really a collective theme that's happening.
It is. It's very collective. And I've been getting so many readings about purging. And then, like I said, a lot of it's been, I primarily read for relationships, but relationships come in all forms. It's not always love that I read about, right. But yeah, that's my most popular ones because usually what do people go to tarot for? It's like, oh my God, my heart's broken. What the hell is that person doing? So yeah, that's what happens. Yeah. But I read, I can't, whatever spirit gives me, I'll just read what the energy is. And a lot of it's coming with just purging and people taking actions, not just being in hangman mode, right? Not just sitting there being like, all right, I'm not doing anything. I'm not going to just sit there. So
well, a lot of people feel stuck right now.
Yeah. So can you explain that with that stuck feeling? Do you think it's intentionally stuck because of everything going on or?
So what happened is in February, we've started beginning to go through that shedding process. So I don't want to get too quantum. I don't know where your audience is at, but when we went through that big shift in December, which most people know about that shift and everything that would happen, as a planet, we went into a new sector of space that we've never, ever been in. And the energies that are coming in are at a frequency that we've never experienced. So our bodies are what's ascending, not our consciousness, like so many people think. So our bodies are integrating these new frequencies. And some people don't even realize that's what's happening. But as you're feeling this, your bodies are going through these changes. Your energy is like going through these internal changes. And that means that you start to become aware of things in relationships. You start to become aware of things in your business or your career and your personal life because you are changing. These frequencies are forcing us to purge, saying you can't sustain this frequency or you're going to be tired. You're going to have headaches. You're going to feel nauseous. You're going to be sick. You're going to have these imbalances in your relationships. And so in February, we started going through this integration process. And that was really kind of like pushing all the gross, dense energy out of you. And people are really feeling that. But on top of that, to make it not worse, but because it's all happening for us, but we stalled. They put us in a stall pattern. So everybody legit feels stuck at somewhere in their life because it's like they put you in this, for an analogy, they put you into a waiting room and they're like, okay, strip everything that you don't want to take with you into the next version of you, whoever you're not, whatever you're ready to get rid of. It's time to take the masks off, start taking off those layers and really just get down to the root stock of who you are and decide who you want to be. And then you have to like make those decisions, those choices to become that person.
And I like to consider that the temporary phase, right? Where you kind of just are in this, like, I'm not sure what I'm doing, but it could almost feel like it's lasting. Yeah. It's like a void. You're right. It's
the black chalkboard, I call it. So some people, your perspective is either your power or your prison. So if you're in the void, you can see it as a lonely, I don't know what to do, where to go. I don't know who I am, or, it's that empty feeling or stuck feeling, or you can change your perspective and see it as the blank chalkboard and someone handing you the chalk and saying, you're here for a minute. And it's a space of emptiness. What do you want to put in at this time? What's serving you?
I think it's a really good, valid point that you bring up with the perception, because not everybody is there to have a different perception or be open. And that was one of the reasons why we started our show originally, was the breakdown to bring on different perceptions for people so that they could be aware of. And we triggered some people with it, but sometimes they're not ready for it, right? They're not ready
Right.
for all of the information that's being downloaded. Some people won't be ready for the information that they hear tonight. But really, the point is not to judge anyone in the level of where they are in
Right.
their point, right? And because everybody's different. There's a whole completely different versions. So what do you think advice-wise? I mean, for the people who are in that void, because that can be very some people go get depressed in that state. What can they do to recognize it, to say, okay, this is temporary, or is this not going to be, because it's so hard to, when you're in that level, sometimes you don't see it, like it's hard
Yeah.
when you're in the muck of things to be able to see it. So are there things that you can show us or shine some light on to our viewers?
Well, the only thing you can, so if you're in it, most of the time when you're in it, especially depending on your level of awareness, and as Tanya said, there is no right, wrong, or place that you're supposed to be. Your life is always perfect and on purpose, even when it's in the shithole. It's just the way it is. You are always where you're supposed to be. So with that is the first thing I want you to know, is I want you to tell yourself life is always perfect and on purpose. So if you are feeling like you're in a dark hole or you're in the void and you feel stuck, the first thing to say is that you're not, like, you have to change your language. You're not stuck. You're not in a empty space. You're not empty inside. There's something wrong with you. It's just a matter of saying, okay, what do I feel? It's becoming aware of what you're feeling. And so for those who follow me, you guys will all be aware of this, but I consider your body your well, and everything that's inside of it is the knowing. So this is your well of all knowing. We're not meant to go outside of ourselves for information, to seek safety, to seek love, to seek abundance, to seek anything. So what you're realizing is that when you're in that space of you desire to not be where you are, you're trying to escape where you are. And so what you need to do is come back to this moment and realize that it's not about the future. It's not about the past. It's not about escaping and getting to where you want to be. It's about the journey and saying, I am right where I'm supposed to be. How can I come into acceptance with where I am? How can I accept that this is how I feel? Because one of the things about becoming your best self that is super, super important, and I really want to say this. So I work with the galactics. I work with angels. I channel many beings, things like that. And one of the messages, some of the messages that have been coming through for me personally was, I was always told by my team that I endure in order to nurture. So it means I endure trauma and, tragedy and pain and adversity so that I can endure. But, where I went with it was, oh, I went through hell to help other people. That's nice. And my guides are like, no, 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 no. You're missing here.
You're missing the point.
Remember, you go first. And I was like, oh, okay. And they're like, you endured so that you would learn to nurture yourself, to come home to the safety of yourself, to come home to love yourself, that you are the safest person you know, that you are the one who will love and soothe and comfort yourself. But guess what? Most people don't do that. They make a mistake. They feel low in their energy. They say, I screwed up, whatever it may be. And they sit there and they say, I'm an idiot. I'm stupid. Why'd I do that? And they beat themselves up. So they guilt themselves, and then they shame themselves, and then they get angry at themselves, which is resentment. And then they come to the neutral point, I call the 0 point field. This is the crossroads where now you have a decision. Here comes a new opportunity. Are you going to repeat this same cycle? And most people just follow that curve right back around, and then they go around and around and around. So you have to break the cycle. So part of becoming the best version of yourself is choosing to be the mother and father that you need to have, the best friend that you need to have, and to hold space for yourself and to love yourself through it. Because if you're going to your partner, and I made this mistake, I went to my partner for everything. He was my best friend. He was my husband. He was all those things. He was also a child. So at the same time, it was like I was going to him for everything, and I wasn't dealing with my issues. I wasn't feeling that whatever he was triggering in me was my well filling up. If you bump someone walking down the road, you bump into them and they have coffee in their cup, what's going to spill out? Coffee. So when somebody bumps you, when they trigger you, what comes out of your mouth is what's in your well. So do you feel guilt? Do you feel shame? Do you feel anger? That's yours. So it's about you realizing that and having that shift in your head and going, oh, this is happening so that I will hold space for myself. So I will love myself. So I will say, hey, it's okay. I couldn't have had today's awareness without yesterday's mistake. It's impossible. So this helps us when we're in those low moments or when we feel like we're in the void to say, where I am is where I'm supposed to be. How can I accept where I am? It doesn't mean you have to like it. You can say, this sucks, but this is where I am. And I need to give up hope that that what happened that brought me here could be any different. And instead say, okay, I'm here. I'm in this space. It's empty. What do I want to fill it with?
And I think that that's, you know, one of the things that I know, especially with everything going on around the world and the restrictions that we have, and collectively, you know, it's not what you know, we don't have a normal of what things used to be like, right? And we're not going back to the normal.
Nor should you want to.
No, nor should you want to. Right. But what I was really getting at is there's another layer here about the things around us that are going to be testing that. So the first thing that happens a lot of times is reactions. And, you know, you brought up feelings, and, you know, I think it's so imperative that, listen, identify the feelings that are absolutely coming up, but it's also the reactions that are coming up. And
well, if you're aware of your feelings, then you have that pause, or you should have that pause that helps you before you react and spout back.
Right. And I think that's the part that sometimes gets missing, especially with going on. And it's a true test for people, because you are going to see a lot of reactions from a lot of different people around you. So it's really an individual thing where we either react to it, or if we just let it be, or can we, as you said, accept that it's not ours, you know, that it's, you know, it's about us. It's, you know, individually.
Yeah. Because again, if you just remember the coffee cup analogy, you know, when somebody, like I had several sessions today where this came up, and it was, you know, I said, when that person's triggering you, what they're doing is they're hitting the Pepsi button on the vending machine, and that it's vending that emotion up, and it's standing in front of your heart, and it's saying, and that's why you feel it so intensely, because it rises up and it sits right here in your chest. And you're like, oh, I don't want to feel this, right? Because I want to get this out of me. And I'll explain a very easy explanation for that. But it comes up to your heart, and it's sitting there, and all it's asking of you is, this person did you a favor. They've vended that emotion up. It doesn't feel good. Yes, we all recognize that. But all it's asking is for you to open your heart and say, it's okay. It is safe for me to feel this. This is safe for me. Because what's actually happening, right, when this is coming up is that people don't want to feel. They're not afraid of anything. They're afraid to feel everything. So we just want to have that awareness that they're pushing that button. They're doing this for us, and it's rising up, and we're feeling that. And all we have to do is what I call the 4 frequencies. See it, hear it, know that you are safe to feel it, and love yourself through it. So those 4 frequencies will actually disarm your nervous system. So what you want to do is I see that I've been triggered. I see that something is coming up in me. Maybe it's guilt, maybe it's shame, maybe it's anger. Where do you feel it in your body? That's seeing it. Your body is, when your body starts speaking, you missed the intuition bus, the announcement. It's gone. Now the body's like, wake up, listen, I'm screaming at you. So recognize when you're feeling an emotion, where that energy lives in your body, number one. And then that way, when you're unconscious of the emotion, your body will trigger it, and you'll be like, oh, that's anger. Oh, that's shame. Oh, that's whatever. And then you want to hear it. So how do you hear it? You hear the story that's going on in your mind as that emotion is coming up. Is it, I'm unworthy? Is it, I'm not enough? Is it, this person is using me? Is this person, you know, doesn't love me? When you hear that story, it's just that, it's a story. And what my guides always tell me is, they say, if you let go of the story and you let go of the blame, only wisdom remains. So what are you learning in that moment about yourself and what that person is doing? And then you just have to hold space. I am safe to feel this. That person is not doing something to me. Nobody can hurt you unless you allow them to. So this is a gift. And then you just love yourself through it. So those 4 frequencies, if you really put them into, and you can do it all in your head in like a sentence and a half with practice, it will change your life. It will change your relationship, because you will give yourself a pause. You're triggered. I stick my tongue to the roof of my mouth. I close my lips.
That's a trick you taught me.
Yep.
Works really well.
I say, shit, I'm going to spout out, because here's the analogy that I was going to talk about. This is what I tell my kids. So my son was bullied in school. And when you have to explain to a 7-year-old why a teacher child is bullying you, like, how do you even do that? And so what I said, and I bring this in because we are all inner children, every part, every wound, mask, protector personality, fragmented fear personality is all seen through the lens of the inner child. So I said, listen, when you eat food poisoning, what happens? He goes, I get sick and I throw up. Yeah. I said, when somebody has a lot of bad, heavy emotions, sadness, anger inside of them, I said, it's a poison. It's a toxin. Absolutely. It's like food poisoning. So instead of throwing it up, they project it out because their body's like, get rid of me, get rid of me. And so it's really important to recognize that we alchemize it. When we face it, when we hold space for it, and when we have the awareness of it. So not to overwhelm you guys, but just go back to the more you can be present and aware of what you're feeling and where you're feeling it while you're in the experience, the more space you create between you responding internally and recognizing and hearing from a deep space within you what's really happening, and you reacting and going back and forth with the triggers until your relationship blows up.
And it's slowing down. It's taking the time to be mindful. It's the awareness that you said. That's why people do the meditation. That's why we disconnect from things around us. That's the whole point of meditation, And I find too, you brought up the body, because we both have examples of our own awakening, how our bodies basically shut down, how we knew. Yeah. But I think it's important to, and this is something that came up when you had said it, because I hope people replay this, because you had the 4 frequencies that you had mentioned. I'm like, man, people gotta replay this just to listen to this again, because it is imperative to know. But I also want to point out that it's also about not beating yourself up if you hit those things again and they come up, because that recently just happened to me when I was going through, some big changes when I moved and everything. And I came up here and I went through a breakup again. And with friendships and stuff, I realized patterns that I was going through that I was doing 10 years ago. And I was like, I can't believe I fell back into it. But the difference is I got out of it within 6 months rather than being in it for 10 or 15 years of recognizing
it. So, and that's actually a good thing, right?
Yeah, it is.
That shows your progress.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's why I really want to point out to people, like, you're not going to be able to perfect this. There's no freaking way. There's no way. We can't even perfect this in one lifetime.
I tell people, listen, it doesn't matter what I teach, or, everything I teach is because I have taken the information that has worked for me, that other spirit gave me, and I put into practice, or that I created to get me from where I was to where I wanted to be, to move me through the how. And so everything that I share or teach has worked for me, or I wouldn't be sharing it. I am a living testimony of it. But even though I do all that, I still have triggers. I still have these things. I am not perfect. But the beautiful thing about it is I went from not being aware of it to then being aware of it, to then observing myself going through it. So I'm watching it, right? I'm an internal observer of everything, internal investigator. So I will watch myself. I'll make a decision. I'll go, I know this isn't the right decision, but I need to see what happens. So I'm going to play it out. And then I watch everything, and I'm like, okay, I learned from it this time. Now I have to put that into motion. So the 4, for example, the 4 frequencies, I ran that on myself twice. This all went down in 2019 is when I created, or when those frequencies came through. I practiced it for like 4 months on myself, ran a beta course on it, then actually put it out into the world. So I took myself through it like 4 times. And now when it happens, I move through situations in minutes that used to take me months or weeks or hours. But that's how it progressed. It was like 6 months. Oh, now I'm going through it in a month. Oh, now I'm transitioning in a week, days. But this is the whole thing. When you want to become the change, when you want to be, you're looking at somebody and you're like, I really admire Tanya. I want to be like her one day. Okay.
Right.
Well, then what do you need to do every day to be somebody that's in Tanya's position? So you decide. So I call these the 3 Ds, and I have these written down. So I'm going to go through them. So The 3Ds are decision, discipline,
Right.
determination. And these are all about boundaries. And what boundaries really are not offense.
Right.
Boundaries are who you are, what you will tolerate and what you won't, what you are available for and what you are not. It is
Right.
what you like and what you don't like. And it's you choosing to say, this is who I am. I'm not going to people please and become somebody else to make you happy. I'm not going to be a chameleon and change myself and put the masks on for this. This is who I am, and I'm not going to compromise that. Now, I use this example because people go, what do you mean we've been taught to compromise? You've also been taught to be controlled. So just hear me out. If you like chocolate ice cream, Tanya, and I like butterscotch, and we go to an ice cream shop, right? And you and I are dating. We go to ice cream shop and you're like, I want ice cream, but we only have enough money for one. If I don't like your flavor, if I hate chocolate and you hate butterscotch, if one of us compromises, the other person loses. Your best interest is not, I'm not holding your best interest and you're not holding mine, right? Because trust means I take my own best interest in heart, but when someone else trusts me, that means I'm taking their best interest as part of mine. That's what trust is. When you lose that best interest, you lose trust. But when we compromise, you're saying, I'm going to give up my best interest for yours. But if there's an alternative, like we both like vanilla, that is a comparable compromise because it helps. It's for you, it's for her, it's for us. For me, for you, for us. If you are in a relationship with anybody, and it's not 100-100, you're compromised. If you're in a relationship and it's 80-20, it's out of balance. It's 100-100. They shouldn't compromise who they are. You shouldn't compromise who you are. Your standards, your expectations, what you are available for, you get what you expect. So you got to set that bar and say, who do I want to call in? How do I want that person to be? How do I want them to treat me? How do I want them to love me? How do I want them, what kind of things do I want them to do together? And then you have to look in the mirror and you have to say, now, am I doing all of those things for myself? Because if you are not, you will not call in that person. Instead, you will call in your unconscious state, whatever your behaviors are that you're not doing that are in your best interest, you're going to call in that person to show them all to you. Because that's what happens. So if whatever it is that you want, because I'm going to blow your mind right now. A lot of people don't know this. And if you do, then you're awesome. There's a saying out there that says, treat people how you want to be treated. That's a lie. Don't believe it. That is what gets you in trouble. This is the wounded healer. Let me give you all the things because I know what it feels like to be hurt. Let me fix you. Let me love you. No. You teach people how to treat you by how you treat yourself. You go first. Whatever it is you want in another person, you better make damn sure that you are doing that yourself and for yourself.
Yeah. And I that's really a really fast. I mean, it's amazing that you state that, but it's so true because there's so many times where we get blocked in the level of we can't get through something because we're afraid of what other people are doing or what they're saying or how they're going to react, especially when it comes to family or especially when it comes to the level of, not being able to fit in or just feeling that judgment, just feeling the judgment alone as to where that is, and, it can be to the point where you feel lost, alone, and it's scary. It's absolutely scary. And you can feel, guys, what I really want to point out is when you're in the level of feeling uncomfortable, that's usually the sign, like when you get comfortable, because then you can kind of break through it. Right? That's usually a sign saying that you're doing something right because your ego is going through it. So it's hard because we are in the level of being, not just in a transformational level, but it's this level of feeling like, I don't know if I can get through it. But when you push through it and you realize there's nothing there and you're safe no matter what, it's fine. You're not going to really worry about that. Right. So,
creating safety is, and Tanya and I know all about this because safety is huge. Most people correlate safety with manifestation. You have to feel safe. But what's funny is you always hear this, especially in the love and light community, love heals all. No, it doesn't. If you don't feel safe to love, you're not going to love unconditionally. You're not going to be open, because intimacy means into me I see. So if your heart is not wide open and you aren't willing to look at the good and the bad inside of you, do you think that the person you're calling in is going to let you into them? Right? So you really have to kind of open yourself up. You really have to strip yourself down. And, you know, the creating that safety is being your own mother and father. It's having the discipline. It's deciding what you want, what you're available for, how the structure of your life is going to go, and then waking up every day with a discipline to be that. So like Tanya has a new routine right now where she's not bringing her phone into her bedroom.
Yeah.
Right. That is creating a new discipline to become a better version of herself. So I always tell my students, I always say, start simple. If that means you want to wake up and meditate every day, and then at nighttime you want to do something, start simple, create a structure. And then here's the kicker. If you don't keep your own word to yourself, then the aspects inside of you, your ego, your inner children, your wounded aspects, what we call your fear personalities, are not going to trust you. If the fragmented pieces inside of you don't trust you, then you have inner conflict. And that means you're always going to be in doubt. Does this person love me? Is this the right decision for me? So when you keep your own word to yourself and do what you say you're going to do, you're building a bridge of self-trust within you. And that brings you into a state of safety, knowing that your body, right, your ego is going to stop spouting out at you. Your inner children are going to stop having tantrums, because they're like, we can trust that Johanna is going to do what we need her to do. She's going to play with us. She's going to love us. She's going to trust. She's going to listen to what we have to say. She's going to take our best interest at heart. She is going to honor her word. So it's really important that when you want to feel safe inside of yourself, it begins with decision, discipline, and determination. You have to be dedicated, because the minute you decide, the minute that you, with all of your energy, decide, this is who I am, this is what I want in my life, when you do that with conviction, the universe literally conspires all around you and begins to build that path. But the other path that you were on is still there, because it has to be deconstructed. You have to go through a releasing process. So there's still energy there. This is when the echoes come in. And those echoes are tests. There's something's going to come around and you're going to go, I'm no longer available for men that do X, Y, and Z, right? So here comes a really good looking guy. And he, of course, does X, Y, and Z. And you're like, it's like you have this moment. Are you going to catch it? Are you going to choose to say, I'm worthy of more and hold your ground? Or are you going to cave in and be like, oh, okay, let's try this again a new way? And so it's about you just being disciplined to say, no, this is not who I am, and being determined and having the patience to get through it. I'm going to give you guys one last little piece on the boundaries thing. I always use the Louisiana levees for this. So as I told you guys, this is your well of all knowing, right? This is your structure. Inside is your energy and emotions, energy and motion. This is the flow, right? This is the water. This is the structure. Louisiana levees are there to hold the flow, right? When there's storms come in, it protects the town. It creates a space for things to flow and where they're supposed to go. If those levees are not cared for on a regular basis, they get holes, they get cracks, and then the storm comes and the levees don't hold. But I'm going to add to this. So this is why self-care is so important. And that's really how you speak to yourself more than anything. Mm-hmm. But let's say that the levees have to be widened. Oh, we have to cut the levees down, and we need to widen them so they can hold more water. Every time you go through an upgrade in your life, every time you face a fear, or you face an adversity, or you up level in your awareness or consciousness, you have essentially widened your levee. And now there's an empty gap. Every time you up level, you have to create new boundaries. You have to look at the stock of who you are and say, this didn't work. This didn't work. I don't want to keep that. That doesn't go. I'm going to try this. Let me graft that on. Let me try this. I'm going to graft that on and give it a try. And what you're doing is you're building that gap so that now when the flow comes in, whether that's abundance, whether that's love, or whether that's a storm, you are safe to sustain whatever comes your way. This is another reason why people manifest when you're wanting to manifest a relationship or money and you have those fleeting moments. The reason why it's fleeting is because instead of having a solid structure that can sustain it and contain it, it's got two holes on either side and it just runs right through. So you have these moments of experiencing manifestation and wealth because you're always manifesting. There's never a time you're not manifesting. So you're like, oh, awesome. I manifested $5,000. Oh, I manifested a guy. Oh, I manifested a girl, but it doesn't stick around. And it's like, okay, when people come to me and they're like, but I can't sustain it. I say, I know exactly what the problem is. You need to create a plug for your container, for your structure. So it stops just running through you. And that plug is like plugging a bathtub. It's made up of the way that you treat yourself, the way that you speak to yourself, the way that you trust yourself, how safe you are as a person. If you don't have those things, you won't be able to sustain what it is that you're wanting. So you have to constantly be upgrading. We're like, oh, I'm a new person. I have a new mindset. I have all new energy. Okay, did you now go to the physical and reset your boundaries? Did you go say, now what kind of routine does this version of me have? Or are you still running yesterday's program on today's new computer? So a lot of weird analogies, but I hope you guys are following.
That makes sense too, because it's a lot of it's outdated programming too, where it's like we just get recycled in like a cassette tape. It's like, now I'm really aging us, but like seriously, it's like you just listen to it over and over again until you realize you're in that loop, Yep. So yeah, for sure. Do you feel that with the energy of, since we were talking about the changes and stuff like that, because I do find that once you start making changes, all of a sudden you get the momentum. Do you have some key things that we can do to help keep the momentum? Because how many times have you started something and then all of a sudden you kind of lose that enthusiasm? And can you talk a little bit about that? Because I know I run into that even just with nutrition alone. Right. But it's still trying to find that thing to still feel enlightened that you're making a choice, because, no choice is still a choice. So
yeah. So one, I always tell people, change your language. So if you're someone who's saying like for me, I went through some health things where I had to change some dietary things. So I'm going to give you an example. I can't have cheese. I can't have coffee. I can't have carbonation. That feels restrictive. That feels sucky. When I change my language to say, I'm choosing to not do this because it's in my best interest, it's very empowering, right? It's not a disempowering feeling. So you got to change your language. And I always tell people, the universe doesn't know the word no. You ask and it is given. So if you say that your life sucks and you have no money and nobody will ever love you, then that's what the universe is going to bring you.
Yeah, it's so true.
You got to change your language and all that. But when it comes to, not following through, I guess is probably a better way of saying it. One is whatever you're doing, make sure you're not doing too much. So some people are like, I'm going to start a new diet routine. I'm going to start a new exercise program. I'm going to meditate. I'm going to do all of these things. And then they wonder why on day 2, they can't keep up with it because they've overwhelmed themselves purposely to sabotage.
Yeah, it's way too much.
So start small, make one change at a time. And once you get real steady with that change, add something in. So small, right actions. Happiness really is about progress, you guys. You want to be happy in life, you have to make small, as long as you're feeling and seeing progress, you're going to be happy, right? You're going to be at peace. You're going to be in contentment. So make small changes. Don't make crazy changes. 2, make sure that those changes are something that feel good to you. That does not mean that you're not going to have cravings or you're not going to desire those old things, right? The ego loves to be challenged and it loves to desire things. So if you're in desire, or if you are feeling like you can't have something and it's a challenge, or you're not allowed to have something, the ego loves that energy. So here's the thing. Give yourself permission to have whatever you want. Don't put it off limits. Instead, choose not to mess with it. Mm-hmm. Choose, right? It's that simple. It's empowering. You're not saying I'm not going to have these things. You're saying I'm choosing not today, not to have them.
Mhm.
Because if you're in full allowance of what you believe you can't have or can't do, it's no fun for the ego. The ego won't play with it. It's like,
Or it
this is
becomes
boring.
and it becomes unrealistic too, where it's like, no. It's
Right.
like-
So I use the example, like, after I moved, I just wanted to like sleep for 2 weeks. But you know what I did? The first week I was laid in bed, I fought with myself the whole entire time. This is laziness. I can't do this. You're not supposed to be. I let my inner critic start ruling me. And then I was like, no, I get to do this. I get to lay in bed. I get to do nothing. I have hustled and worked and been everybody's everything for 41 years. It's my turn. And when I gave myself full permission, I didn't even want to lay in bed anymore. So, it was like the ego was like, well, this is boring. You do whatever you want. You know what I mean?
Right,
So
right.
it blew it up. It took the conflict away. So it's a part of the decision, the discipline, and the determination. Come back to why you're doing it. So decide what you're going to do. Make it simple. Have the discipline to where you are so aware of your feelings, your cravings, even if it's craving there's still men I look at and I'm like, oh, you're bad, but you look so good. It's that juiciness. And it's like, I know what this is a temptation. Like, no, I have my discipline. I say, no, I come back and I say, I'm not choosing this. I'm choosing a certain level of person that I'm calling in. I'm choosing a standard that I will not accept less than. I love myself too much than to do that. And then it's determination. You have to continuously come back to your why. Why are you doing this? Are you
Right.
doing it to get something, or are you doing it because it's in your best interest, because you love yourself? Because here's the thing, you guys, whether it's a relationship that's toxic or it's the food and crap that you're putting in your body that's toxic, whatever it is, whatever is happening, your body is a consciousness. It's consciousness like another person, and it should be respected. It should be honored. People take care of their cars, they wash them, they change the oil, they appreciate it because they're paying for it, and then they trash their bodies. Well, this is your soul's vehicle right now. So it's a consciousness. So if you're letting someone disrespect you, that's a disrespect to you and your body and your energy. It's like there's so many layers to it, So when you're making those different choices to better your life, whether it's in relationship, in health and money, whatever it is, recognize that when you're doing that, it's a respect thing. You're really being respectful and loving yourself. Because again, if you're disrespecting yourself, if you're letting your inner critic rule you, if you're allowing people to walk all over you, if you're trying to find safety outside of you so that you feel safe within you, it's all going to be reflected back. And the sooner you face it head on, the sooner everybody else will stop showing it to you. because here's the thing. The biggest wounds are not being seen and not being heard. So you have to see yourself. You have to see it. You have to hear it, or nobody else will. They'll just keep projecting it back to you.
Yeah. And it will be over and over and over again until you get it.
So you're like, oh, why is this happening?
Yeah. And that's why people are like, oh, so this is really important too for manifesting. Like, I know that I am so aware now when people, when they state it, is like, this always happens to me, or like, I'm not going to try this anymore because it just always happens to me, right? They start creating these limited beliefs, and it's based on fear.
Yeah.
So instead of looking at it or having a different perception of it, and it's maybe that's just not what you're supposed to be going after or seeing the lesson in it, they actually close themselves off, because our ego's there to protect us. It really is. It's there. It's not a bad thing, right? I remember one time I worked with a therapist, and he had a really good way of describing the ego, because he's like, you can't work against the ego. Like, the ego is always going to win. You can't work against it, but you can work with it. You can treat it as though it is your, your bodyguard, and say, all right, you know what? I think I got this, right? And then kind of keep your ego to the side. But you got to recognize what your ego is and what's the fear that's driving it, because that's the mechanism that makes us survive.
It's meant to protect you.
Yeah.
I always tell people, like, so bringing yourself into union, right? You hear a lot about this in the twin flame community. Oh, we're supposed to come into union. No, you're supposed to come into union with yourself. Everybody, whether you're a twin flame or not, you're supposed to come into union with yourself, because the healthiest person in the world had the most perfect life, perfect childhood, perfect everything, still has at least 22 fragments in their consciousness. And what is a fragment? It's a part of yourself that you have gone, I don't want to feel this. I don't want to experience this. This was bad. This was a crappy part of me. I'm going to cut it out and push it away. And that creates resistance. Well, if you're in resistance to anything, you're in resistance to everything. What are you doing? It's like standing in the middle of a river, and you're standing there, and you want to live in totality. So you're standing in the middle of the river. In that river, you can experience some sticks. You can experience some trash. You might experience some beautiful fish, some beautiful fresh water, maybe a little turned up water that's a little bit dirty. But when you see that stuff coming, you can navigate it because there's no restriction. But the minute you're like, ooh, I don't want to feel this, you start building a dam. And that dam doesn't just collect the bad stuff, it collects the good stuff. And now all of your energy is going to holding up that dam. So it's a weird analogy, but it works. So when we're talking about coming into union, it's about letting go of the resistance to anything and allowing yourself to navigate. But when it comes to the ego and the inner children and everything, I say they don't have to agree with you. It's not like they're going to stop spouting their stuff at you. But if you can build that bridge of trust, that they can see that they don't have to constantly protect you, that you do have your best interest at heart, all of those aspects will at least get on the bus and go in the same direction as you. But until you can build that bridge or start building that bridge to get them on the bus going in the same direction, you're going to feel that fragmentation. You're going to be pulled this way and pulled that way, and you're going to fight with yourself. And so it's really about recognizing that the ego and these other personalities are there as a protection mechanism. Like Tanya said, they are bodyguards. Like anger is grief's bodyguard. So that personality of you steps in front of you when you get triggered, and you literally go through a change. That person, it's like it possesses you. So this version of you possesses you and goes, I have to be this version of me and protect me right now. And that's what happens. So when you recognize that, when that comes up, you can say, thank you for protecting me. I'm safe. I'm okay. Thank you for your concern, but I got this. And when it sees that and this is part of, I see you, I hear you, right? So when it sees that, okay, she's catching on, we don't have to be a bodyguard so much anymore. We can do something else. She's got it. I can sit down and take a back seat. It will. But you have to constantly do that because it's reprogramming yourself. I always say, you can't get rid of a pattern. You can't. You have to replace it. Energy can only change form. You have to replace the pattern.
And when you replace those patterns, I just did a collective reading. I'll probably post it later tonight, but I had a collective reading, Johanna, and I brought it up a little bit to you, and we were discussing this about how there's this need of like purging people who aren't in alignment with you as you're going through your change. And it could be difficult to end some of those relationships or those connections. But also when you start changing and people recognize it, you're not going to always have everybody who are going to support you in every way. So you're going to have to be able to, that's another test. It's just another form of a test on there. So I just want to bring out the clear people, like, when you get to that level, you're going to have a perception, and you're not going to judge those people for doing that. People half the time when they react to something, when they're change or they see a change in you, or they say, I don't know, that's too dangerous, or that's too risky. I don't know if you should do that. Or maybe you'll have the people who, the trolls, the haters. We had a couple on here earlier. But when that happens, you can either stop or you can keep going. Don't stop. Just keep going, because the more you do on stopping, the more it's just a test, because you're going to find as the momentum keeps going, you're not going to be able, they're going to deflect and go away on their own way. It's not the level. I mean, these boundaries are for you and what makes you feel safe and okay.
Yeah.
That's what comes down to you. It's not about what everyone else does in there. And that's hard, because sometimes it's our own family members, where
this actually came up today on a client session that, she said her family, she had to block her friends and family on social media because they all thought she had lost her mind and gone crazy. And so there's a couple of things that we can go through here. And one is, you are never required, blood or not, to keep people in your life. So if you set your boundaries and you say, hey, thank you for your concern. I know it's coming from a good place. Thank you for your concern. Thank you for your input. I'll take it into consideration. Close that door right there. You don't have to tell them you're going to do it. Thank you for your input. I'll take it into consideration. Or two, you can say, thank you for your consideration. I know you don't understand, because here's the thing. You guys, when people do that, they're running a fear program. And when you're running a fear program, one, they don't understand. When people don't understand something, they get into fear because it's
insecurity.
uncertain. Two, when they're running a fear program, they're afraid of losing something. So they think if you're making these decisions, they may lose you. So when you have that awareness, okay, they're afraid of losing me. So let me just tell them, hey, here's my, this is, I appreciate your concern. Even if you don't know what you're doing, be like, this is where I'm called. This is what my intuition is telling me to do. I'm going to honor it. Please respect where I am.
Right.
And if at that point, because you guys, adversity is not bad. We only grow in adversity. So there's nothing wrong with having people in your life that are not like-minded. In fact, it's very beneficial. And I'm going to show you why in a second. But if they can't respect the boundary, that's when you boot them and you say, listen, this is a respect thing. If you can't respect where I am and accept me where I am, then you don't need to be a part of my life. I can love you from afar, family included. But this is what we call the agent of oneness. So in the center this is the one and only truth. There's only one only truth to anything. But here I am. Here's Tanya. Here's Corey. Here's Ginger, right? Here's Baxter. All of these people are seeing the same truth from a different perspective, from a different point of view. And so what they're seeing is their truth. And what you can do by understanding that is say, that's their view. And this is my view. It doesn't mean they're wrong and I'm right and I'm wrong and they're right. It means we're both right. And that we can see the same truth from different points of view. It's really powerful to understand that. But the other thing is this is a journey. It's okay for people to be where they are. And when you recognize that and you can stand in your boundary and do that, you're being the change. You're shining your light and saying, no, I'm not going to conform and make you happy and do what you want me to do. I'm going to choose me here and I'm going to do this. And even though they might not understand it, you're able to shine your light and say, I'm going to be the change. And the change is to break this cycle of being controlled and conformed and told to do things a certain way, and so you break free of that. But by no means does that mean you have to keep toxic people in your life, but you only grow through adversity. So having somebody else express their opinion that's different than yours, you can just listen from a very deep place inside of you and see if you can read their fear or understand them better. And you can just simply say, thank you for sharing that. You don't have to engage. You don't have to say, I agree. You don't have to nod your head awkwardly. You can just be like, thanks for sharing that.
And that's a really good point, because I know, especially when I was moving, right? My family did not understand why the hell I was moving. They're like, well, you're doing those moves. Why? You're going in the middle of nowhere. I'm trying to tell them I want to have a new start, do something new. But the truth of the matter is when the older version of me, before I was doing all of this, before I was really practicing mindfulness and awareness of myself, I would have reacted. I would have been like, why are you trying to control me? Why don't you support me? Oh my God, I'd be reacting, right? And I'd be flipping out and I'd be blaming them and projecting on them. And there was a couple times I flipped on it a little bit, I had those hiccups, but I did have a quicker awareness of going, how would they feel being in my shoes? And all of a sudden they see all these changes and they say, this is too scary. This is you don't have this lined up. You don't have that lined up. Well, that's not their reality. So they think that they need those things to feel safe. That doesn't necessarily mean those are the things that make me feel safe.
Right.
So having that perception and staying in the truth was new to me. So when you are going through it, it's still going to be new to you if it's not something you do often. So it's practice. You just got to keep practicing doing it. Oh my gosh, I feel like we can talk for hours about this, and we've got about 5 more minutes left. So I want to make sure we talk a little bit about some of the programs that you're offering right now and the cool stuff that you're offering for my group, which I much appreciate that you're doing.
So before I do that, I want to give you guys one last little nugget. And especially with trolls and things like that, right? When you guys are worried about being your authentic self and being who you are and people coming at you with opinions, remember this. Majority of the people who are coming at you, they do not know what's happening inside of you. They don't know the journey that you went on to get you to where you are. Even your parents, like nobody knows what's really going on in here. So why are you going to take the opinions of someone who doesn't have all the information? Why are you going to take that to heart and let it mean something about you? Because majority of the people coming to you, they don't have all the facts. So that person is coming to you ill-informed. So next time someone comes at you, whether it's a keyboard warrior or it's someone that doesn't agree with where you're at, remember, say they don't have all the facts. So whatever their opinion is, they can share it, but it's not my truth because they don't even have all the information to make that determination.
It's so true. It's so true. And it's like, yeah, you could spend so much time on what trying to think about what the other person thinks when it really doesn't really matter because you're not going to be able to change their mind anyway. So
no,
what's the difference? Like, why are you even worried about it? Like, that's the reality.
Right. So I created a Becoming Your Best Self support bundle. And this has 6 energy healing transmissions. So I have the gift of light language. So my words are light encoded. So they're very activating and sometimes triggering to people. But some of these have light language in them. Some of them are more of shamanic journeys. But we have in this pack, we have Clearing the Vagus Nerve. This is a language of light healing. We have Accessing Your Divine Gifts within the Akashic Records. We have an extended version of a trauma healing energy transmission. We have Integrating the 3 Aspects of Self. This transmission is the longest. It's an hour and a half, but it integrates your fear personality, an inner child, and a galactic version of you, which is your guide, because majority of your guides are versions of you. And it also has the language of like 222 portal 1. And even though this was the 222 portal, it was just using the energy of it. It's one of the most potent transmissions I have done to date. Most people are like, I've got so much feedback on it. I will warn you, if you fall asleep or you feel like you've been knocked out, what's happened is the frequency coming through is higher than what you can sustain. And so they kind of knock you out so that they can do the work without you fighting with it, because then it kind of creates exhaustion. So if you doze in and out or you wake up, you're like, oh, I missed most of it. No, you didn't. You just took a little nap. They worked on you. It's all good. And as soon as you start staying awake more and more, that means your frequency has gone to a different level and you've been able to sustain it. So it's really cool. These transmissions will really change your life. And then I also gave Tanya a coupon code for any of my digital courses, you guys. They're 50% off using code Tanya.
Oh, we appreciate it. And you guys, I'm putting all of that information in the description box of wherever you are, whatever platform you are on Facebook or on YouTube. I also have her website up here, johannaburkhardt.com. You can get all of the information to book a session with Johanna or just to follow her community as well. I mean, she's always got nice stuff. Please follow her on YouTube. She always has a lot of cool energy reports, and I concur. I love her meditations, but the reason I started chuckling is because I'm one of the ones that fall asleep, and then I get frustrated because I'm like, I feel like I got to go back, and every time I do, I'm like, I don't understand this, and it came to the point where I felt bad, but I was actually sitting up when it was happening too, so it wasn't just the level of me lying down. No, I mean, it's just
but now you're starting to stay awake through them.
Yeah, I am. I am starting to stay awake for them, but it took a good 2 years for me to, I guess, ascend to that level. But yeah, but thank you so much. I am so happy you came on board, and much appreciation for all of your knowledge and your wisdom, and for your for being so gracious to the world, because this is all what it's about. It's about helping the collective, and I know I'm honored to have you as a friend and to also see how much you have evolved and you have become the best version of you.
You should have shared the story of how we met or how you found me.
On Facebook, right? I can't even remember at this point. Yeah.
I can't even remember when that was, but I think you booked that's back when I was doing readings.
Angel readings.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was definitely during an angel reading. And I used to just follow you on Facebook just to listen to you. And I don't know, we just hit it off, and you had a healing session. You had a healing session for going on, and I was going through my divorce at the time. So I said, I made a choice to take a session on healing, and it was a lot of inner work. And then next thing I know, I was doing another thing where she had another group with Claire's, and Then we just started chit-chatting and becoming
And we
friends. So
became great friends.
so yeah, she's definitely my soul sister. And that's what's so weird, you guys. When you start doing stuff that is aligned to you, you'll start meeting the right people. It will just happen naturally, and then you won't remember how you met. Like how I just did with John. I'm like, where did we meet? Oh yeah,
No,
Facebook.
I feel like we've been friends our whole lives. You know?
Yeah,
But
yeah.
that's
And
how
it was all,
happens.
we're not even in the same state.
Nope.
Never were.
Once we were.
Yeah. Once when we met. All right, guys, lots of love. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time. Take care.